you still manage it.
Honk, honk, whiskey whiz, let's go rowing.
Centre of attention. No, yeah. And he would turn up the horny.
Yeah.
So no.
Guys, good evening. Welcome. Season 2, episode 19 of the It Matters podcast. We are gathered here this evening. We've chosen blue as our theme.
And I'm sat at the head of the table.
Now, and there's reasons for that, Daniel.
There's reasons to be heard.
Which will become clear. But Daniel, first, the business of the podcast.
Yeah, as you all know, we're powered by Xtelligence, the primary provider of positions in, not just IT, but in anything in your, recruitment, talent, professional organisation. You're looking for good people. They have it. I know at the moment we're looking for a Scrum Master and an Informatica engineer, and I know that because I need them. And so if you want to know any more about it, head down to the comments, or I think actually in the right of the box, or send your request to email at infomatterspodcast.com. Like and subscribe, tell friends old, new, those good, those bad, post it to your neighbour, knock on the wall, make some noise, tell us about them.
Absolutely.
We're all about bringing you information. And this week, we've got Big J.
Got Big J in the house,
Oh, I'm back.
And we're going to be discussing mental health, both in the workplace, at home, the fact that the three of us are sat in a nuclear bunker and we're all going nuts. I'm sat in this seat because he's about to cry, so I swapped my seat because he didn't spit his dummy out, because seriously, he's having issues. But on a serious note...
That's it, it's true.
On a serious note,
Variety is the spice of life.
Variety is the spice of life. So we've switched it around, and to be honest, I prefer it here because I don't have to crick my neck.
Yeah,
I quite like this.
It's a new setup.
Top of the table, bitches.
I was going to go there, but I'd be dwarfed between these two being a short horse.
Yeah, it makes my
I think
after
after the last few hours of therapy that I've had, I realize, you should just let the pretty people shine.
Pretty people, something he is not.
I think, put your comments in the box, because in the box, I'm off. I mean, I stopped drinking a year and a half ago because of mental health issues. Mental health issues. And at the moment...
You've turned your life around, actually.
Turned it around completely, not a drop for nearly a year and a half.
I'm going to say this, it's from me, but it's there's a broader voice that I'm speaking for. You've really made a huge change in your life, and it's so noticeable to everybody.
Yeah.
And... big respect, because the path that you walked was not the easy one.
No, only for 30 years.
But you did it. Or you're doing it. I should say you're doing it.
It wasn't easy.
You're doing it.
Wasn't easy.
Yeah. No.
I did go all in. I cut myself off. And they do say, preparing for this episode, which is more of a free for all chatting about. Yep. It was your suggestion, so I want you to bring things up.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was looking at last night, suggestions to improve mental health. His relationships with friends. We speak a lot because we work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're on the other end of teams, even though in a different organisation.
Yeah.
And you're my buddies. We've worked together since 2007 when we all actually first met.
Yeah.
Actually I met Kenny for an interview.
Yeah.
He went, not circumventing, you got it. I came to the office. Big J came in with a handful of nicotine stubs in his hand and went, who the fuck's this?
Who's Danny Bunyan?
And then we had Squeaky David standing behind us, and Callie works there.
Yeah.
So from mental health, for me personally, it was mega tough.
Yeah.
I went from the city of socialising with, going out every single night to settling down, with wife and with a stepdaughter who I love and a giant ridgeback, and sinking into a life that I wasn't leading. And also the way I've let myself get into work, and as you know, I've produced 100,000 times better than I've ever produced before. And it's a huge change. Mm-hmm. But one of the barriers I did is I cut myself off completely. So now I'm trying to integrate myself back into it.
Slowly.
My challenge was alcohol.
Yep.
And it's a huge drug, huge impact on people's lives.
And it's such a... Sorry to interrupt, but it's such a central... It's such a central pivot, though, to socializing.
It is.
Right? Because especially here in this country where we live, Czech Republic, going for a beer is not actually going to get drunk.
It's a national sport.
It's about really going and socializing. But you socialize around that beer, and when you cut yourself off cold, that makes it very difficult to socialize, because then you're surrounded with your
especially
which means like even more what you've had to go through and the steps you've taken. It's very impressive, huge. Very impressive.
And I won't say it was easy, Joel.
No. I imagine that
it was so hard. I mean, I always wanted to be the centre of attention. always in the
still
bar.
are.
Yeah, you still manage it.
Honk, whiskey whiz, let's go rowing. But anyway, let's bring it. I mean, I thought by doing the intro to the show and the fact that I've gone through some serious changes. I mean, you
big respect for opening up about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
as well
yeah,
on the
yeah,
podcast.
I'll take some balls.
I've had therapy, and they need it.
They now need it.
Shout out! I'm only £100 a day.
Yeah.
An hour.
I mean,
but Joe, you wanted to come on the show, and you know, we're all professionals. We've all talked. You've been on many times. We've talked about careers. We've talked about the struggles
Family,
that
cybersecurity,
and now it's time
technologies.
We've brought season 2 more about getting down to the nitty gritty of who we are.
Yeah,
and
bit more life stuff, more life stories.
And this info matters, but this does matter because mental health is huge, and you're a gregarious, happy sort. So Kenny's quite quiet. Top of the table is fucking mensch.
I've been there.
Yeah, but
Lucky
we've all gone through it, and you know, you said you'd like to bring things up. There's things changing in your life, and you know, we'd like to discuss it with you.
Yeah. So I think, you know, for me, I found over the last, let's say, 15 years, especially as I've been married for those 15 years and have 2 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife. My wife's probably, you know, I mean, you introduced us together, so she's
my bad.
She's
sorry.
I'm good.
I don't blame you. No. It's okay.
Oh wait, she's a Yama girl.
She was a Yama girl, you know.
Oh, you're a Yama kid.
So we have Yama kids.
Wow,
and
that's a thing, by the way.
And that is a thing.
Shout out #Max Monson.
I don't know how great of a thing it is, but it's a thing.
It's a thing. It's a beautiful thing in this case.
It is. It is actually a beautiful thing, and Max built a nice, actually, community.
He did.
But to be honest, you know, it's with work. You know, you get so focused into our work.
Yeah.
You know this better than anybody because of, you know, what you've gone through with work and the pressures that you're under in the projects that we're working on. We tend to throw ourselves, all 3 of us, into our jobs, and we're 110%.
Yeah.
And then what's left over for the family and the kids is bits that, you know, it tends to not really. It's not a smooth flow. It's more of a like just.
So something always has to give, and it's usually the family unit because that's negotiable. The work needs done; it will always be there, and we're judged in a multitude of ways, positively and negatively. Deadlines are always financially governed, and you know, if you don't get there, the money runs out, or potentially not. And then sometimes the jobs run out. So they're not always the negotiable. They're not the parts that can give. So the knock-on effect is that family and friends take the hit, or social time takes the hit. And in my head, it's a catch-22 vicious circle, because you need the social time to alleviate the stress from work, and you need that beer time. Now, we've all partied hard.
But when you're 12 hours away from home working,
no, of course,
and then you going out for beers at hours that probably aren't very conducive to family time.
No, probably not.
You're
it's
already
a release.
getting yourself into but you're in a cycle that doesn't line up with the family life.
Of course.
And when you're in that cycle too long, you can't get out of it.
Yeah,
right?
because
it's
automatic pilot,
which is what I did. I was mixing.
And I'm sorry,
No, of course.
No, it's true. I was burning the candle at both ends. I mean, still doing a great job, but now I look back in retrospectively, I was clearly not doing a good job, because what I'm doing now
is a good job.
Yeah,
is an A1 job.
Yeah. But I've gone complete reverse. I've taken it too seriously, where it's consuming so much of my time and weekends and support, and I'm taking it all personally because I helped build it.
Yeah, right.
Your pendulum has been swinging from
role reversal.
So it's still swinging like this.
Yeah.
It's just priorities have changed, but not necessarily in the right way either. Because I'm not taking the time out to enjoy my hobbies, like used to play guitar a lot, to painting, used to do that a lot, and I used to combine that with getting walloped.
But hold on, and I don't mean to stop you, but I really do have to stop you, because the other day you and I were talking on and I'm going to share a private chat that he and I were having at work, and I said to him, I said, Danny, like, you know, because Danny introduced me to the bass guitar.
Yeah,
Danny,
50th,
and we rocked out on my 50th, and he challenged me to learn songs, and I did it.
And you stuck with it, beautifully.
And I'm still playing, and I was telling him, like, Danny, you know, my headspace is bad, and so I really picked up my guitar again and really started playing it. And he mentioned to me that, you know, I need to do that again, and it made me realize yes, we have a ton of stress and a ton of deliverables at work, but I think we both now realize, because the way our chat went, we're both at a point in our lives where we're going, look, it's not healthy if we
No.
keep on this path.
True.
We're going to go back into that whole play hard, work hard, but that play hard becomes really destructive. It's not healthy play hard.
And it'll never be as hard as it used to be, right? You're never going to go that far.
But it's a slippery slope. It's easy.
I know.
It's easy to fall back into that.
Of course.
Which is why when you know you have healthier
mentality habits or right.
better habits, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna start playing guitar again. We're gonna get a studio. We're gonna start jamming and working on songs. These are giving you positive outlets.
100%.
Yeah.
That we weren't before. We were letting the work take us to the point where we're
the work
already in a
the work
hole.
was a means to an end. Right. And I mean, I've never
because
had.
we've worked projects that are.
We've
intense.
done project.
Yeah,
They are life consuming.
Yep.
Projects. I blew through, and we all know who she was, blew through an 8-year relationship just because I was an automatic pilot for the best part of 10 years.
Yep.
I'm not doing that again.
Yep.
And then I burnt out. Danny and I went to Croatia.
You've gone through this quite hard as well. From
I threw myself at everything. We had my regular projects working. We've always been entrepreneurial. Me, fanatically so.
Yes.
And in 2021, and there was some psychological impact of when you can see blue sea. It opens up stuff in your head, and things became really, really clear to me. I was just doing too much, and
you're spinning your wheels, but not getting to where you wanted to be.
So the momentum, I thought. I mean, I used to get through a lot of work, and I just things would just. It was a cycle where 3 months would go past, and you wouldn't remember any of the fun stuff. You get really excited potentially about the wrong things.
Yep.
It took 3 years to clear my head and get back to a point now where I'll do a quality 40-hour a week, 45-hour a week, and then I'm looking for it's downtime. And the point I wanted to make was the quality of the work you're doing there diminishes over time.
Yeah.
That's why they say 90 minutes of quality focused work, break 90, because your quality of your concentration spends more time at its peak than it does over time, because of course it reduces. And I always used to say, at the time it didn't matter, you just banged away and all that kind of stuff. But there comes a point, and I think this is probably what we're kind of collectively saying, is there comes a point in life where you just don't have the same attention and focus, and you can't get to it. It's a ever reducing trend. And the job satisfaction reduces because
it's not just the job satisfaction; it's life satisfaction.
Right.
My
Maybe
satisfaction with who I am as a person,
Yeah.
the life I'm leading, and where it's leading me to. I'm not stupid. I don't think any of us are. I think we all get to that point where we realize it's going to lead us to the grave.
Yeah.
And what did we leave behind?
Yeah.
I mean, you've clearly
what mark did we have?
You've clearly come to a point. I mean, you mentioned, you've just had therapy. I go to therapy. Kenny's had therapy.
Yeah.
In the United States, if you don't do Xanax and go to therapy, they don't give you a bus pass.
Exactly. I mean, who knows? We might have seen the same therapist.
It's really funny. Again, coming from the States, and when I left the States, therapy was the rage. Everybody had a therapist.
Right.
And I, for me, it was something that
had a stigma.
Just go play hockey. Just go for
go
for a jog. Go for a run. Go do sport. You'll work it out. And as I've gotten older and living here, I've realized sometimes just talking things out, and then you hear yourself talking them out.
With somebody who's impartial and a little bit removed from your world, right?
They're making you ask questions. Yeah. They're making you change your perspective. Again, why did we change our seats today? Because sometimes just changing the way you see the world or the way the routine, that change actually empowers you and brings a lot of positive energy. And that positive,
I like it here.
That positive energy.
Hashtag I'm staying.
Hashtag free camera.
Yeah.
Sensitive attention.
You.
And I mean, it's fair to say these are fairly recent. No, they've probably been a long time.
I think going to therapy is, at least for me, because I kind of grew up in that age of no doctors, no therapists.
Well, we're all the same. Yeah.
Keep everything in your.
We're
all kind of from that same.
We've given things have been better diagnosed now. There are ways out of it. Whereas we would just sit and suffer.
We find our own ways to medicate and solve it.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 kids, a wife, a job. Things are going well in the job.
Which, if is normal. It's pretty stereotypical. It's normal what humans do. So what's brought you to a point of feeling anxious or overwhelmed
or that change needs to happen? What's the change driver? Fuck off.
I mean, my change was
that's a beautiful. It's actually, guys, that's a great question. I was becoming addicted to an unhappiness.
Okay.
That was making me hate myself. Right?
Pretty bold statement there, big man.
And the way to simply say it is, the same thing over and over again. It wasn't bringing satisfaction. It wasn't bringing joy. And I get it. Like, we change over time in our lives. We grow, we change. But, the concept or idea of just going to the pub and drinking 20 beers and going home drunk, it doesn't.
Just dulls it.
To me, there's no interest. Like, I'm looking at that life and just going, I don't know what else to do because that's what I'm trained for. But that doesn't bring me any joy. I don't want to keep doing what doesn't bring me happiness.
I mean, it's fair to say that hanging was a brutal. But the older you get and all that kind of stuff, that's clear. The recovery time is a miserable 1, 2, 3 days.
It's I want to give better quality time to my kids. I want to be sharper.
No, of course. But the point of what I was going to make was
this way split fiction, dude.
Yeah,
that gives you happiness. You lose 9 hours of your night.
Split fiction.
It's a game on a console. Great game out there.
I was thinking
amazing.
What age is it rated?
Well,
split fiction.
Yeah.
a few connotations there, boys. But I was going to say that I mean, I hate not spend too much time talking about COVID, but when we worked together pre-COVID, there was a nice divide for me, which was a quality working day. Call that what you will. I mean, we've known it,
scoops afterwards.
Yeah, and a couple of scoops after, and you get some quality. You'd have a release. We did more business in that bar under the office than we ever did in the office potentially, and you'd meet. I mean, the whole of the bar used to give us. It was basically. I'm not going to mention the company. Tables, right? And then you'd walk in, and you'd have the HR table, the IT table, the ISRM table, whatever it might be, and you'd bounce around. And you'd waste a couple of 2 or 3 hours, and it wasn't. It was never. It got boozy, but it was never always boozy.
No.
And we lost that.
Yes.
Then in my head, what kind of happened is the boozing in isolation has the booze.
This is a significant effect on everybody sat around
and
this
nobody
table.
gets the release because nobody gets the interaction time. So it just becomes the boozing, and there isn't the same reward.
And for me, it was the end of it. So we worked together. We're in the same building. We went to the same restaurant bar in the evening. We mixed with all our colleagues pretty much every day.
Yep.
But it's only for an hour, 2 hours. Then you go home.
And you sit outside in the summer, and it was great.
You sit outside,
fantastic.
you wind down, and it was fab. Then COVID hit, and it was like, right. And since then, I don't go to an office.
Nope.
The only time I mingle is when I'm coming to the podcast in the secret. It's the only time. I mean, I've got my my beautiful wife. I've got my dog.
Yeah.
I love my life.
But our jobs changed too.
But everything's changed.
I mean, for example, my job, the team that I work with, is predominantly remote. They're either in India or in Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I work with people locally as well, but not to the degree
like
I used to.
And I have a controversial point to make here. During COVID, afforded people a wonderful choice to a wonderful time, shit as it was, to make some choices. And the choices that a lot of people made, they chose, they maybe more money kicking around because they weren't sitting in the pub. And it was never that super expensive, whatever it might be. Hey, mortgage lending was never higher in the Czech Republic than it was during COVID.
Yep.
They also since fallen out of that. But anyway, people had their aspiration. The point I'm making is a lot of people chose to move to the mountains.
Netflix and chill,
move
out of
stay
town.
home.
Yep.
It takes 12 weeks to form a new habit. Christ, we 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So those new habits that form, or they moved out of town, or some of them got married or had kids or whatever it might be, and then they moved, they never came back.
Yeah.
And it's a line of thinking I talk to myself in the bathroom mirror about, because I think there's something a little bit selfish about that. Where, I mean, I know people are the internet tells people to do what makes them happy. I would challenge them to say, so you've moved away from your friends and you've moved to somewhere. I mean,
in some cases, in a lot of cases here, because remember, this isn't where we come from, they moved back to the countryside, but close to family. And I of course I accept. And so for that, I can understand where maybe they have a happiness from being out of the rat race of the city.
Absolutely, and their costs are potentially lower.
While still making the wages of being in the city.
And that's again where COVID.
So
proved.
For some people maybe it worked out.
Yeah. And okay, so maybe it's more a reflection.
No, but you're right. It's the balance.
You have a good point.
Yeah.
Values change. I mean, as you've just said, the difference between March the 20th, 2020, which was the last day in the office in Pancras, to now was, for me, all of it went away.
Yeah. There was.
I mean, it was different. I mean, COVID. Yeah.
So you see 20 people a night, and now you see 3 people a week.
There was one.
And that wasn't a choice then. That was mandated. That was taken away.
Yeah, that was a mandatory.
It changed everything. Yeah. A lot of people that we speak to struggled with being on their own. I was on my own at the time.
18, I hated it. Damn.
2 years. I mean, I personally, I love my own company, but even I was going deep into you can see it from a lot of the artwork again. It's like issues.
Yeah.
Issues. I mean,
No, but that was your outlet.
I've got half of it hanging in my house. So
But that was a wonderful time. I mean, clearly creative as you are. Yeah. Sorry, Joe.
One of the cool things that came out of that for some of us, right? For you guys who were alone, that was
hell.
That was hell. For me, for example, I remember before that I had a team. I had a lot of people working for me. I had a lot going on. I was always shaking and baking and doing stuff, coming in at night, late at night, and I'd walk in the house and there'd be dishes in the sink and I'd be like, what the hell? Do you do anything around here?
Oh.
I mean, no, but right? I mean, so I was really putting my relationship on the front foot back then. I was being that strong
Hang on, man,
man.
the point's coming. Yeah.
And then when I was home and I actually had to
sit
at home working, listening to the kids needing, hey, mommy, I need this. Hey, mommy, I need that. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. And watching her clean everything. And as soon as she cleans it, 2 seconds later, the kid spills something.
I get it.
We do the same as adults.
So it got me to a point where I actually really appreciated a lot more. In fact, I think for both my wife and I had a much bigger appreciation for the work she was doing every day, in and day out. And she had a bigger appreciation because she thought I went to work
and played computer games all day.
Drank coffee, hung out with Danny. We were oogling pretty girls in the office, and that's how our day was. And that's
if
really
these are pretty girls in the office, Joel. I hold my hands up. I was
right, but this was Mary's perception of what my day was, and my perception of hers was she was just hanging out playing with kids.
Yeah, you got to see each other's.
Yeah. And you can. I mean, it brought light to a multitude of things. You got 8 hours in the office. What is it they say? Don't confuse presence for progress.
When did we ever spend 8 hours in the office?
No, right. But so now, I mean,
15,
I'm
double it.
Right.
Sleeping in the toilets. Remember?
I never did that. Yeah, did that. Yeah, okay.
Well, you never use that. So if you out there haven't done this, if you ever do choose a public or a toilet space within an organisation,
choose the handicap
use
toilets.
the handicap toilets because you've got space to curl up and there's always 20 toilet
rolls.
And
if you cuddle up to the string and you fall over, they'll come and wake you up.
Or the multi-faith room, I believe, or prayer room as it was once known.
I think they've done away with most of those.
Or a conference room, turn your back to the door and nod off.
But to be fair, we were young and we were all deep in projects, and I think back then, when you're younger, you have a little more stamina for it. You've
got the grit for it, right?
You got the grit for it. And
25 years down the line, you're pissed off.
And as you get older, you need to learn how to manage your time better, and you need to learn how to manage your time with other people, and you need to. And again, it gets back to managing your time, having a balance. And I think it's really yes. You need a hobby. You need you have work, you have home, and you need something that you need that. It's a tripod, right? So you need that third leg to stand on. For Danny and I, lately it's become music. For some people it's pickleball. For some people it's it's badminton or biking.
Never understand why it's a pickleball. There's no fucking pickle. It's a ball. Call it ball.
American
fat ball.
Exactly.
Lazy man ball.
There are a few suggestions here you've got for mental health. We covered a few. Is connect with others. We do it.
But you need conscious. People are crap at that, and
it's harder to make it happen. Now we're having to manufacture it. Remember before we used to just after work immediately just
automatic pilot.
Right? Now it's text or
and
WhatsApp.
Now we have to.
That to me is not connected.
That's not connected.
No.
Actually,
it's better to know someone's there and they're okay than not.
That actually to me. So I think, and it's an important point to make. So socializing is really important. Mm-hmm. Socializing in person is really important. I think it's very destructive that the availability of chat, quick gratuity,
instant gratification,
with getting rizzed up by somebody, and I feel good about myself because this person's talking to me, and actually I think that's unhealthy, and I think that becomes a slippery slope because again your emotions aren't a video game, and then when you start putting them into the mobile gaming
I wish they were have wings.
framework, you're you're destined to be left needing another dopamine fix, right?
Yeah.
So, so you're going to be always left.
I mean, we had this and it was taken away by world events. We did podcasts about this, covered marginally in the dating episode we talked about. There's a generation coming who will have digital relationships and they'll have no interaction and all that kind of stuff.
Sooner, it's pretty much here.
It's all Black Mirror.
In Black Mirror, if you haven't watched it, is a fantastic vision. So somebody like
which episode?
Oh dear Lord, there's loads of them.
All of them.
Social scoring, what nuclear wasps, radio control wasps. I seem to remember one.
Yeah, there is one. Yeah.
And
then the latest one was pretty.
That's pretty dark.
About the wife, and he could. What I loved about that one was.
She was going to die, and she's got
into, like,
iCloud in her brain.
I mean,
Sponsored by adverts. That was it.
And they behaved like
they power up more and more.
Yeah.
I'm going to get 2 bullets of ketchup and squirt it up your bumhole.
Yeah.
The guy's working 4 jobs and doing some dark web stuff just to get paid, right? Just so he can afford.
To avoid
just because he
subscription.
Loves, because they're playing off of his love, right? To make money.
You've now gone down to standard subscription instead of.
Yeah, they can't get gold, so the wife's brain is sponsored by adverts. Did
you see how jealous he got when she had Premiere?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. when it went gold.
You're liking this a little too much.
Yeah. When he went.
I got you an hour's worth.
No, yeah. And he would turn up the horny.
Yeah.
So, no doubt to everyone out there, if you're suffering with mental health issues, get yourself a birdie who's got iCloud in her head, and get yourself a subscription.
Yeah, it might not be fun, but it won't be long before you've got a SIM card in your ear.
So I suppose, going back to how you cope with you know, mental anxiety and mental stress. And I hear people say a balanced diet, get sleep, and trust me, sleep was something I never used to do.
Yeah,
and now clearly because I changed my life, I changed my life, and I took out a big equation, which was alcohol, and started going to bed at a normal time. And now, I'm up at 6:30. You noticed you up at 6:30 this morning. I'm always up. Doesn't mean that I don't want to nod off at 2:00 and watch Catchphrase, half asleep. I haven't got the time on back-to-back calls. Oh, I love that show. I love it. And it's, you do balance, you do eat salads, do this. I have too much sugar now because I've taken out sugar that I used to have in alcohol.
But you're conscious of that kind of just again when you're out on alcohol. I mean, I'm no angel.
But the mental health thing that I'm getting to, there are things to change. Yeah, you do change your sleep patterns, you do change what you eat. But the key one is I cut myself off, and the social contact. Even when my partner says, "Go out and meet your friends," I'm like.
But it's hard.
My brain just goes, "Who? I've cut everybody off. I don't want to go out."
But not only that, but it's hard to do because all right, I want to go out, but what can I go do? What can I get my friends who I want to hang out with? What are they going to want to go do, right? And like you and I've talked about it. Let's get a studio where we'll play. It'll be a safe space. It'll be an alcohol-free zone.
I mean, I'm cool with it.
And for me, I like that concept because I think that's also. Then you're also proud because you're helping to enable your mate to get through, and be a better person.
You're getting your creative side going. I mean, I've been a musician for years and years and years, and recording, and this is. And my studio is sat at home in its flight cases, with the cables in the back since I moved, and that's 14 months ago.
But I
look at it and go, I should take that out now.
You notice the trend though, and so I don't know if a lot of people follow music and what their habits are, but through you and through my wife, I have quite a few contacts with some professional musicians, Jess Goldman, these guys are not, I mean, these were the old hairband rock, like bite off bats' heads kind of party guys. Not anymore. None of them are like that anymore. They're all yoga. They sleep at night. They do yoga in the morning. They've all kind of gone on I think they've realized the life
they can push it
they
so
were
far.
living wasn't bringing them just like us. They hit a point where it's not bringing them happiness, and so they changed it. They changed themselves, and now they're 90 and still rocking out.
All I have to, I mean, when I started my mission to cut out, and it was cold turkey. Mm-hmm. I was watching. I mean, I don't use social media, but I was looking at famous people. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my icons is James Hetfield, lead singer and guitarist of Metallica. Struggled with alcohol for years. I mean, he's one of the biggest heavy metal rock stars on the planet. Mm-hmm. Now, for the past 10 years, if you look at him on stage, and I've seen him 40 times, he drinks cold tea. He hasn't had a drop of alcohol in 10 years. So you think, if a rock and roll legend can do it, I can do it. And then you get it's fashionable now to give it up. If I had moderation, I wouldn't have given it up. But for me, it's all or nothing. I don't go out to have 2 beers. It's not what I want to do. I want to get plastered. Give me 3 bottles of wine, and it doesn't mean I'm you know me. I wasn't aggressive. I was funny. I was a functional drunk. For me, it was all or nothing. So I surround myself with messages of it's good doing what you're doing, and your family are not worried, and your wife's not worried, and your friends aren't worried. I'm in a better mental place.
Yes.
But I struggled hard because why should I do it? I mean, I'll just cut it down, but I couldn't. Then I'm lying to myself, and I'm hiding booze, and I'm doing this, and it damaged everybody around me. You guys were concerned. You know, you saw me at a lunch saying you were shaking. You didn't tell me on the point, but you were shaking that much. You couldn't eat your soup. Yeah. And there's probably lots of stories of me shaking fucking scrambled eggs all over the show. I haven't got bingo wings in it, but but it's again, that was me waking up, and therapy helped me through that. So I had to face it. When you have to talk to somebody in Czech for an hour about how shit you are.
Yeah, that's a sobering moment, right?
Ooh, especially in your non-native language. It was a bummer, but it made me realise I need to understand that I'm doing this for me first and foremost, and doing it for other people.
Yes.
And that helped me.
By the way, that's a point we should put an exclamation point on because mental health, we get caught up in the boss wants this delivered. I need to get this done. I need to take the kids here. I need to run errands for that. I need to pick up something for the wife. We get so hung up in all the things we have to do, but we're forgetting about the most important thing we have to do, which is take care of ourselves. And because if we're not mentally healthy and being the best we can be, then we're not actually delivering the things people need from us.
It's what I call fitting your own mask first.
Yeah, I think you did that.
Yeah.
You know, I've been your postmate for a long time, and it was like, it was Kenny, you've got to stop, or you're going to blow up.
Yeah, no, and we had what?
And you're like, no, I can handle this. No, I can handle it. No, you took a look at yourself, and then you made it real. And for me, it was looking inside and going, I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this for Kenny or Joel. Or I'm doing this for me. Yeah. And by doing that, they won't need to worry. And it was only until I realised that I went, all right, this is going to be tough.
And I remember the day when I had the realisation, sitting on that terrace in the Airbnb in Croatia. Yeah. Well, we were fortunately afforded a 5-week holiday instead of 2 because the place was shut. And there was no point in coming up. We were working.
It was working.
But I just remember morning coffee, sitting there, thinking I can't do this anymore. And I made some quite sizable decisions about what I was not going to do in the future.
And another thing, Kenny, that something that you dropped on was taking time for yourself. Mm-hmm. So, like, last year, you planned to go to Croatia way ahead of time. You jumped in your car, you did it. And another point here, I'm not going off these points. I'm just scanning through to see at which point we cover them up. And we are. And one of them is, learn new skills, pursue hobbies, etc., which, we've got those skills. It's just utilising them again. And another one was plan enjoyable activities, events to look forward to, which you do. You mentioned it before when we're having a quick chat before we came in here. You've got you finally got a trip for the family, a trip planned in advance, to Italy, your routes are there, your kids, etc. So there's another point that we've covered off, which was something that we dropped. So another point of a thing that you've got to do is dropping it. Last year I managed to go away with my brother and his wife and my wife. Best holiday I've ever had. I've got my sibling there. It was amazing. And that's all I look forward to. Fortunately,
it is a tough call to drop and I was historically crap at taking holidays. Yeah, I'm a day rate whore. It can be expensive.
Have to get paid.
Expensive, right? And taking a couple of weeks out. I was on the road. Well, not on the road, but I was away for like 9-10 days last year, and I don't think I looked at my phone once. And that ability to unplug, I've never had, and it's so liberating. It's so freeing up the mind.
You remember, Kenny? This is not a bad point. Mm-hmm. Again, it's an observation. And here, another one is, doesn't fall into our bracket. We're not that generation. Is limit exposure to negative news and social media. But you remember, your phone was. I mean, you were managing your own company as well, and an exchange notification would go off, and your watch would flash, and you were always doing that. You don't do that anymore.
No, I stopped wearing my Apple Watch.
You stopped doing that. Your phone doesn't, because you have made a conscious decision to remove. I will out of the working hours, and that's a huge change.
And I have a cracking office at home. I built it out during COVID. We used to compare notes and what we're going to lights and mics and all this. Actually, we had a podcast studio each.
So why are we doing podcasts here?
Because there's a line of delineation. I walk out the office. Came here this evening.
Again, it's getting out. Personal.
Separating your work life from your personal life. And yes, if something blows up, I might spend 10 or 15 minutes. That's work-life integration. I'm not going to spend time at my desk. I'd stop spending time looking at a laptop screen, and I go out. Last week I went out on the bike. and then it's a bit of a wind down towards Kip, and it makes such a world of difference. No, there's only me at home, but it would be time with the kids, I imagine, for you, or time on the guitar for you, or my other hobby, flying planes, is not quite stress free.
Yeah, well, you picked up flying lessons.
Yeah. I read. It's also because my wife is around the kids all the time, and she needs a break too. So
no, of course.
So I like at night, she'll put them through the bath, and then I come in and I spend half an hour, 45 minutes playing, plushies or reading the books or spending time with my youngest daughter, and that's a nice wind down. It's a wind down for me. I have the problem with then after that I go downstairs. My wife will lay down with the little one to get her to sleep. Mm-hmm. And sometimes because she's had a long day,
of course,
she's out like a light, and I'm sitting there by myself, and then what I realized was I was getting angry. I was getting angry that I'm sitting there by myself. I want to be with somebody. I want to be hanging out with somebody, but I can't leave.
Hanging out with somebody. Oh, hanging out with somebody.
but I can't leave, but I can't. But then staying is not. It's not working. And the stupidest thing, what I started doing. I'd come down after putting my, doing the whole thing with my daughter, and then I clean all the dishes in the sink. And then I look at the sink in the kitchen, and I'm happy because I know I'm going to wake up to a clean sink. It makes me feel good. And then I'll make tea. I'll make myself a nice tea. I have a tea, and then I go to bed. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed lately is, my wife's now coming downstairs because she's like, it's nice to come down and see the clean kitchen. And then, because she's had a long, hard day of keeping up with everything.
You put yourself in her shoes.
It's a small change,
and
but
vice versa. Yeah.
But even if she doesn't come down, I'm not angry. I'm not, I've kept myself busy, and then when it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep. It's just it's just those little changes we make.
And 100% is getting away from the
screen time.
Yes. I 100% between 10 and 12,000 steps a day I have to. If not, I get irritable. Yeah. So, there's not many gaps in the day.
And that's such
But I'll tell you, I have to take...
Of course it is.
Anyone can do it. You can even take your earphone if you have to be back-to-back in meetings. Yeah. Then you can do... Or just, you know what I've learned to do is say no and delegate. Yeah. Yes. I've got a team, but instead... Because I said to my...
I heard really good PMs.
You do, yeah, right. But my therapist said, "Do you feel you need to be in control?" This was before.
I'm guilty of that.
No, I don't think so. Then I went, I am.
Yeah.
Because I want to know everything. I want to be part of everything.
Yeah. Because our work culture is.
It is. We're contractors.
Because we also feel an ownership.
You were a contractor for donkey's years.
Yeah. But we all feel an ownership. We're all bred, like we were built in that generation where you're only as good as the work you do. Yeah. That was what our parents beat into us, and as a man, you get a job, you work your butt off, you pay the bills, and you give your wife and kids a nice place to live until you die. Yeah. And you just do, that's what you do.
The other one was you're only as good as your last project, and of course, you're always trying to one-up yourself.
Right.
Which is a hell of a thing, because you end up in a...
So, you end up needing to have a therapist.
Kenny, you've learned that to say no, and that was one of your
It's my number one
biggest things. You're one of the things is... we
getting
chat,
out of my screens.
And again, he's also, look for the support when needed. Your support. A mechanism for you was, guys, I'd love to come on the show and just have a chat with my two mates about it.
Yes.
So there's another point, seek support when needed. Yeah. And then it says connect with nature, just picture both naked around a tree giving each other kisses. But,
Not quite my thing.
But we've got to wrap this up because we're literally going to go in the dark. But I think for all of those out there, we hope you've enjoyed this, is, to seek support when needed. It doesn't mean seek, and it doesn't seek. You don't.
No, support comes in a multitude of ways.
Support can come in a lot of ways, and most important thing I would say to everybody is, it's easy to say, I don't need that. I can handle it. I can do it on my own.
You got to get it before you need it.
But at the end of the day, if you're not getting the satisfaction and happiness out of life that you should be, you're gonna just keep twirling around.
And then you will.
And what I found has always worked for me is get together with your closest mates. Yeah. Have a good chat, talk it up, chop it up, and change it up. It doesn't have to be about drinking. Exactly. It can be about going biking, go motorcycling, go fishing.
Paddleboarding. It can.
It doesn't. It can. But that shouldn't be the focus.
I have a rule when I'm in front of Danny. I don't drink alcoholic drinks, but we can have a fizzy.
Yeah, and I'm way past that marker of. 15 months. I was gone in the first few months. It was imperative that nobody had it around me because I struggled to be near it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But now it's I don't want it in my life. It
I mean,
ruined
and I've actually had non-alcoholic beer, so you avoid the
That's actually not
avoid the
bad
temptation.
taste.
You know, that kind of
All
stuff.
the calories and the taste.
So I think one thing to wrap it all up is, so there was 16 points there.
Yeah.
I didn't mention any of them. But we
covered them anyway, which is actually a first.
Which
Mr. Producer,
which is
sir.
great. So for the audience out there, if you are affected by mental health, you know somebody who is, we're going to put some helplines.
Yeah.
And we're going to put all of these points in the description.
Yeah.
And just have a look through yourself and just try and reflect on the fact you might not think that you're suffering. You might think you've got everything under control. Yeah. Have a look at them and have a listen if you are watching it.
Yeah.
And just realise that we've done this in a friendly way and just by literally own experiences. All of us have opened up and gone, we've all found the gaps, we've all found the loopholes, and we all feel better by opening up about it. So don't feel alone. We love you.
And before we go, Mr. Producer has a question.
So cut, but
Let it run out. You can cut it.
Is there an overindulgence in me? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I successful?
I see where you're going with that.
That's a great point.
Isn't it you know, we in the West.
Me.
Yeah, we in the West have the I guess.
Luxury.
Kenny, do you want to ask that?
Like
Yeah,
this.
so-
We've only got a few minutes. So
Exactly. So we had
outside of this, there's another world out there.
Yeah.
So one question from our producer is there an overindulgence in personal satisfaction and before my view is it's the good old internet telling people a whole bunch of shit and people get brainwashed. I don't know what you guys think.
So I'll make it quick. I don't think he's wrong. I think unfortunately, I think it's a generational thing.
For sure.
I think the younger generations have that. I think with us, our problem was we were too busy trying to make everybody else happy and never busy making ourselves happy.
Right.
The younger generations are different.
All the way around, almost the polar opposite.
it's all about them.
And it's gone the other way. And I think we'll learn that. That's a
think
question I
I-
don't think we're
You'll
going to
see
be able to
it
answer.
with your kids as well.
Yeah.
You'll see them grow
Yeah,
into it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to not let them
Sure.
become too much like that.
But
But
with any teen, I mean,
it's their
I've got a
generation.
19-year-old stepdaughter, and I love her with all my heart. But you know, it's like bipolar. You know, one minute amazing, next minute you do not realise that we
My
live
life
in
is
this
hard.
world. And it's like, I hate to say I told you so, but
Yeah,
I'm here as well.
Hey, we are the last generation that
of
will that were shit at looking after themselves historically. That had to turn a corner. There's a
Look at
generation
the
coming.
generation before us.
Yeah.
You know, that went through wars just to
Right.
to keep,
Yeah.
just
My
to
mother
keep
brought
us in
up
place.
three kids and all the rest of it.
And they didn't moan.
No, they got
No,
fucking
that was
on
their
with
problem.
it.
They didn't talk about
But
anything.
they didn't talk about anything.
They kept it so internalized.
Can I have a piece of that bread?
They
Fuck
were,
it
if
off,
you
you
pardon the
twat.
pun, mini explosions, not with any war
Yeah.
references. But anyway, we're going to wrap this up. We could go on all night.
Great conversation. Thank
Joe,
you guys.
thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming
Listen,
on.
it was a top
Thank
idea
you.
to come and spend some stories,
Thank you.
show some stories.
Cheers, brother.
Danny, always love you, mate.
Yep.
And,
Thanks again to Intelligence for pounding it. Like, subscribe.
Absolutely.
If you've got anybody you know, send it on. We'd love to hear your questions. We'd love to bring a topic up that you're interested in. We thought this was close to home for us, and we came here to speak to our friend, and it's proved absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful.
So stay safe. Stay
And we'll see you
strong,
next time.
Look after yourself. Bye bye.
Cheers, guys.
Care.
Waffle.